And welcome and to another show of Black Love Conversation with the Dyers, and they are the Smiths. As most of you probably can see, that my wife and I were in two separate places. Same state, but two separate places. But that happens, and I think it's a great topic to talk about being in a relationship when you're far apart.
You got that one.
Yeah. But most people, if you want to know, you can always pick up the podcast later on iHeart, Apple Podcasts, on all your podcast stations. You can just put in Bridges Live's Black Love Conversations with the Smiths and the Dyers, and it will pop right on up. If you have any questions, please inbox us on any of the social media, whether it be Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or YouTube that is playing live. And welcome. Hi, Smiths. We missed you last week, Fulton.
Oh, yes. I was way across the other side of town.
Yeah, you were more like an hour and a half away. You couldn't make it we could swap back the schedule at that point.
So I'm not an hour and a half away. I'm only 20 minutes away, but nonetheless, I'm still away.
So when we talk about relationships and being apart, what are some of the things and tips that you suggest that will bring people to know that, hey, you're away, but you're not out of touch. You're not out of thought. Like this week, it seems like we call each other more. That seems to be more. I mean, whether we call each other throughout the day, but because she's away, we call each other more. And is that just something that you think is a tendency that just happens? Or should it be a negative if, like, hey, that person hasn't called me as much as I think they should?
Well, I'm gonna set a foundation first before we answer that, because our relationship started off actually real long distance. Because when we first started our relationship, Fulton was an on-the-road truck driver. So he was gone, literally to Wisconsin. What was that? A 3-day drive or a day and a half drive?
3-day drive.
So, yeah.
Wow.
So we had made an adjustment, and plus I traveled at that time. So most of the times when he came back in town, I was at a hotel somewhere. But the thing is, we had made some very specific promises to each other on how we were going to make that happen. And saying that, I'm going to add a link to this, too, when we get through, because I actually wrote an article about long-distance relationships that I think will help
That's
people.
Pretty cool. Even
sometimes long-distance mind and body and soul, not necessarily physically long-distance. So I think it'll be a good supplement to this. But for us, it was very, and I know y'all get tired of saying this word, intentional, but it was something we knew we were going to have to address in the beginning, or we were going to have a very questionable, shaky foundation in our relationship, because it was already like, okay, I'm on the road. I got used to be on the road. I got used to coming home, calling my own shots. I was like, hey, if this get too many days on the road, when you come home, I'm gonna still be gone. And I'm not getting ready to stop, drop, and roll when you show up. If we don't create something around that. You laughing, but it's very, when you've done your thing for so long, you have to really say, okay, this is what's going to have to change in order for this to be our thing. Mm-hmm. So, like when Fulton came off the road and I was out of town, he would get on his motorcycle and meet me wherever I was. So that means after he's already driven, 12 to 16 hours to make it home, he was intentional about getting on his bike. And he got on his bike because he knew he wouldn't fall asleep on his motorcycle.
Yeah.
So he got on his bike and met me wherever I was. So that was a thing. And we used to always joke about the Celine Dion song, I drove all night to get to you, because it would literally be, sometimes he would show up at midnight at the hotel, depending on wherever he got off the road. But it was like, we knew I would, already tell the people like the dance to give him an extra key. All those things would be prearranged. So that is how we had already set up our relationship. And the thing is, when I had days off, I would just go on the road with him.
Okay.
So it was that balance, you know. It wasn't felt like he was the only one giving up his days off to be traveling with me. When I had days off, I traveled with him too. Now that sometimes got a little scary in the wintertime because we've gotten stuck a few extra days somewhere in the snow. But I mean,
that had to have been fun though.
It has. That journey when he was on the road, it was actually, I think that helped us actually when we got to be off the road together, because we had already set so much intention with each other that when we're off the road together, we make sure we eat breakfast every morning together. We make sure we eat dinner every night together. I mean, it's just those things we set aside. I mean, we can't necessarily eat lunch together because we, you know, when he's in the garage, you know, here, you know, the garage here, that's fine. You know, I can walk out, we can eat, we can talk, you know, on the computer. You know, I'll sit out in his office with him that's here at the house and we'll have that conversation. But, you know, of course, if he's doing mobile mechanic work, I can't be out on the road with him all the time. He can't be sitting in the office with me. But we set aside those times. And I think you have to do that before you get too far away and too distant for each other, that those times are already set aside for each other. And I know Fulton over here blowing, he got something to add to that long distance.
If you hit everything on the nose, and this is a good topic, long distance relationship, because both y'all guys got to be willing to sacrifice. No if and ands and buts about it, no maybe and don't think and nothing. You got to, both y'all guys be able to separate. But what really build a strong foundation between my wife and myself, both of us say from day one, we have to make a lot of sacrifices. Both of us say that we drill that in our soul. She gonna be making sacrifice, and I'm gonna be making sacrifice. So whatever it takes for your relationship to work, we gonna make it work. Because you know, I've been in a relationship for 32 years, and she's been in a relationship for 20 years. So both was on a different thinking pattern. So we went in with an open mind and open to all suggestions that we gonna make this work. So to make this work, we have to make sacrifice. And you have to realize one thing. You say you and your wife talk a lot more because she out on the road now, or whatever part of the area. See, you have to look at nature. You know, as I'm saying, like, look at this nature. What I mean by to look at nature, sometimes an individual gets so cluttered. When I mean cluttered in a house together, in a room together, wherever y'all guys at, and getting so comfortable with each other, then y'all get overconfident. What I mean by that, you start getting overconfident, you don't really pay each other attention. You start taking each other for granted. So when nature comes around, when Mother Nature comes around, she sees what's going on. So she'll Mother Nature blow a certain breeze out and push you out to another part of the state where you at, to another part of the county, another part of the city. And then you'll see a little small stuff going on. Say, oh, my wife is not here. My husband is not here. I'm missing this little bit, and I'm missing this little bit. Then let me pick up the phone, let me call him. Let me pick up the phone, let me call her. And then you see that little simple stuff that y'all guys were not paying attention to. Now y'all see that little small stuff that plays a very important part, because my wife and myself works on small stuff. That's what gets our attention, small stuff. We live our marriage on small stuff, because we have to focus on small stuff, because small stuff grows. It grows if you don't deal with it. You have to deal with it. I made it. When I was on the road, we made it work. But I was still kind of uncomfortable, but we still made it work. Now, when I get home and I'm working at the house now and going on the road sometime, I don't let nothing come in front of
getting back home at a certain
time. I don't care if I'm not through working on the car, and if I get through working on the car, we'll make this certain money. No, I cut it. I said, nope, I'll come back and see you tomorrow, because I don't put nothing in front of a relationship. You have to keep practicing that, being there with your family. You have to practice it. You have to make that practice. Don't put nothing. I don't care how much money you make, how busy you is. You have to put a time on it, because whatever you're doing is not more important than spending time with your family. And I'm learning that the hard way. And I want to try to tell men that, because we are bad for that. You know, I got to make this few little dollars. I got to go to this meeting. And you have to realize the stuff that you sacrifice in your relationship with your family, and you're going on to another part, taking care of, that gonna be there. That don't really mean that much in your relationship. And sometimes you don't figure it out till, just like say your wife working in another part of the city. Now you see all the little nibbies that you missing, and you're on the phone with her, and she on the phone with you. And see, that's good. That's nature, and we cannot control nature. You got to follow nature, and it's loving when both individuals can make sacrifice and knowing that they make a sacrifice and they're making sacrifice for a good reason, because there's nothing more powerful, nothing more loving than a good, strong marriage between a wife and a husband when it's dead in the Almighty Father words, because the Bible speaks about that. The only thing come close to the relationship is the church.
Relationship with God, yeah.
Yes, that's the only thing. Anything else, it don't matter. So when we start getting out of that stream, when we start letting, I'm telling you what my experience,
right,
how it was going on with me, because God blessed me when I had my shop. And I tell anybody, I had a shop for 21 years. I made good money. Lord put people in I stayed busy, even during Christmas days, New Year's, I stayed busy. But I don't see nothing from it now. I don't see nothing from it now. Because the reason why I don't see nothing from it now, because I was going at material stuff. I sacrificed my kid. I sacrificed my wife. God took all that from me. At that present time, I was doing good. For 20 years, I did good. I just had problems on my shop for the last 21 years. 20 years I did good. The last 1 year, 21st year, I started having a whole bunch of problems because God saw you're not listening. You're not listening. You're going at this the wrong way. He kept on talking to me. I lose some customers. I said, don't worry about it. This is me. I'll get some more customers. I lose an employee. Don't worry about it. I didn't say God help me. I'll go out and make this happen. I lose a couple of dollars a day. I said, I work hard and get these dollars back. Law said, no, you're not listening, young man. I'm going to show you something. So he took everything from me. Now I'm doing it vice versa. Now, when I was driving that truck, the 18-wheeler, I would tell people all the time, a truck driver do two things real good. I ain't say driving now. I say holding the steering wheel and talking to himself. Because I found out all the doggone silly stuff that I did and didn't add up for nothing. Now, to be honest with you, let me tell you, I'm not making the money like I used to make when I was driving the truck. I'm not making the money I used to make when I had my own mechanic shop. But I'm going to tell you what, I'm more comfortable now than I ever was be. I got a peace of mind and stuff still coming to us like the Almighty Father wants to come to us. Because you know why? Because we make sure our household is happy. That's the most important part of life. I don't care what you do, what y'all guys is doing. You have to make sure. Your household is happy. Once your household is happy, everything is a breeze. Because I put out a thing on Facebook today. I'm just not going through it. You know, man, you really test who you made of and what's really into you, what you really made out of, and all the good sides and bad sides. Get involved. Get married. And y'all guys get in and be locked up in the house. Y'all see each other all the time. You see all the bad sides in you. You see all the good sides of you. So, you say, wow, I didn't believe I was like this. No, because when you're in a relationship, you bring something out of your husband that he never thought was in him, and your husband brings somebody, his wife, and he thought was in him. And then, oh, wow, I didn't know it was this, but it was all it's in you.
It was in you.
It was in there. It was all there.
Yeah, it was all there. So a relationship brings a lot of good out of you. A relationship brings a lot better. But for y'all guys, y'all have to make sure y'all deal with it.
Mm-hmm. That's the key thing. Even though bad may come out, you both have to just learn how to deal with it. Yes, ma'am.
No, I was just going to say the one thing that I definitely think that I had started getting used to all the time was, we would sit down at a certain time to eat dinner together and stuff. And now Paul, most times now at dinner time, he's doing shows. So we really haven't had dinner at the table together in a while. And now, especially since I've been here this week and, eating by myself or whatever, it's just like I realized how important that was to me. Mm-hmm. I enjoyed us sitting down every night eating dinner together because we go over our day, talk about, what's possibly to come. Mm-hmm. And I really think that that's something that's really important for a relationship, that to end your day that way. And so I really missed that. And I really believe that he and I will go back to making sure that happens.
I'm gonna say this. Sorry, I'm gonna say this. Y'all will go back with 5 exclamation points, because that's a very important part. Don't, like I said before, you and your husband, anybody with relationship, everything, like say your husband going doing the shows or whatever circumstances,
reschedule, move them around.
Yeah, move them around because
I have to do that.
Because you have to make that work. You got to make that work. Because I mean, I'll say it like this. I don't know if anybody understand what I'm saying. I'd rather make the outside individual uncomfortable than make my house uncomfortable. If I have a choice, if I have a choice, that's one, because you always can go back to your outside, what you're doing, and get it and make it up. It's not that hard. It's not going to be difficult. But within your household, because you got to remember, if your house is not in order, then your outside activity is not going to be ordered. You might try to force the issue, but it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. We have to do what the Bible says do. Your house is first. Now, how you guys going to work it out to make that first? Y'all guys have to sit down with a cup of coffee or a cup of tea or something and discuss how y'all do it. Don't let nothing come between. I don't care how busy you is, sir. I don't care how busy you is, man. Because me and my wife go through the same thing. You have to make it work.
And let me say, our schedule don't always work out perfect by any means. Sometimes we have to call each other like a time reminder, say, because, how far are you, I don't want to eat after this time tonight. Right. We're not as dedicated that we have a specific time, but we are required to be eating before a specific time, because neither one of us eat without each other, period. That's a rule in this house. So you don't eat without me, I don't eat without you. Exactly. So that's a rule. When a certain time get here, I'm calling. I'm like, okay, my stomach is telling me it's dinner time, so that means you need to be pretty close. So that's kind of how that works. But it works out because before I even began my day, I work with his schedule. So that way we can coordinate that. Every once in a while it slips because you don't actually know how long a job is going to take or things like that. That's life. But we make a conscious effort to always make sure it's not our everyday. And so you just have to really, and that's why that nighttime coordination and that morning breakfast is necessary for us, so we can coordinate and prepare just in case something might happen. Because I'll say, okay, well, you're working on these cars. This is how far you may be away today. Supposedly the people already have their parts, but every once in a while you get there, they have the wrong parts or something else is wrong. So those are things, you can't necessarily dictate the flow of life. But the thing is, just like my husband said, if they're not in Noonan or 2 or 3 hours away, he's going to tell them, my wife at home and wants to eat. I'm going home and I'll see you back tomorrow. And that's what he'll tell them. Because it's like, okay, this is what's, her eating is more important to me than finishing your car. Because, at the end of the day, if I haven't eaten, I'm not going to be a happy camper when he get here so late anyway. So, it's just all of those things. And then plus, we just need to shut our day down together. It's that decompression. Because the longer I stay in the office means there is more time for me to need to decompress too as well. So we kind of just, we balance that how we need to. Each other's schedules. And I think you really need to have that decompression time together so y'all can talk and y'all can vent. And we live in such a fluid world that people understand that the schedules change and things of flexibility. So it's kind of just schedule your life around the life that you want to live. And that's how we do. This is the life we want to live. It's not about us being millionaires. Is about us being comfortable, what wealth and success looks like to us, instead of just, chasing the dream of outside. Sometimes we chase the dream of outside. And, that's kind of like what Fulton was saying. And, his first 21 years in the garage, that's all he was chasing. He was chasing what everybody else thought he needed to have, where he was missing, chasing God, and God magnifying and multiplying that in his life, what he already had. So that's what we chase now. We chase God, and then we let him give us what we want in that chase.
Just recently, where she's at, there's it's tragic, but it happens all over the world. It happens everywhere. A woman died alone, and it's sad that it's not just dying alone or dying by yourself. It's not having anyone who says they love you and care for you, that they're with you. You know what I mean? And we were talking about this week because it's a tragic thing when people being found dead and no one knew that they were missing and something was just strange you want to talk more about that, honey? Just how what we were talking about, just the idea of being
So their next door neighbor, she was 62 years old, and she's estranged from her. She has two sisters. She was estranged from her sisters, and the police came to the door yesterday and asked when was the last time we had seen her, and I said, well, I don't live here, so I don't know. And his younger brother was at the door with me, and he says, I haven't seen her in a while. But long story short, they ended up having to go in the house. They went in the house and they found her. She had passed away. They found her in the bathroom. And when they first moved here, she was already living here when they first moved here in 2000. And at that time, she was living with her parents and her husband. She had since gotten divorced. I mean, she got divorced like not too long after they moved into their house here. And then after her father got sick, she had moved them out into a facility. And then after her father passed a few years ago, she moved her mom back in with her. Well, her mom passed away about 3 weeks ago, I found out. And then a couple of weeks after her mom passed, she apparently lost her job. So there was just so many stressors in this woman's life, and she didn't really have any close friends. She used to employ a lot of the teenagers in the neighborhood just so she could have company around her, because she would find like menial tasks to employ these teenagers to do for her. And it was really just because she wanted the company. And so for this woman to be found in her home, and it's a really big, beautiful home, for her to be found in this home all alone, pretty much with no one. And so Paul and I was just talking about, that we have to not just for one another, but just looking out for others and being aware of people. People are in pain, and we get so busy and so self-absorbed that we're not looking at our neighbors, and we're not looking at our, coworker
or ourselves, or even ourselves.
We'll ask the question, "How you doing?" But we're not really waiting to hear the answer, And so that's what we were talking about. We were just talking about that life is so short and so precious that a lot of these things, it's like Fulton was saying, you're out here to chase this dream, but we have to stop and take more time for one another, and so it was just like Paul has started golfing again, which I'm really excited for him because he loves the game. He hasn't played in a long time. And he started to play again, and he was talking about, next week. He was like, well, I probably won't play next week because of, whatever. And I said, it's giving you, it's exciting for you, it's fun for you. Go golf, go have fun because, it'll give me a chance to go visit my baby. So it's, it does. So like having some time apart is okay as well. But I just, it's just, when you're, especially with my line of work, I've had a 7-year-old pass away in my arms. So I'm not new to death. But when you watch someone being removed from their home, in a body bag, it really does put things in perspective for you. Like, all this small stuff, this bickering over small stuff, or who you still talking to, or who you still texting with. That stuff is not even important. What's important is this relationship here. And I just think that also this time apart this week, although like I said, we're only 20 minutes apart, and I have seen him through the day in person a couple of times this week. But
It feels different.
Yeah, it's like I get to come home tomorrow because they'll be back, and I'm just like I can't wait to see my husband. I'm excited to see my husband, and so it's just it just really puts things in perspective, and I think that we had a really insightful conversation over what has taken place. Mm-hmm. So it's like that book says, don't sweat the small stuff.
And I was thinking about that because Fulton says we got to pay attention to the small stuff, right? But there's a difference between sweating the small stuff and paying attention to the small stuff.
Right.
There is a difference.
Those days, honey, when we were in the military, when they always say pay attention to detail.
Right.
So I feel like what Fulton is saying is more so pay attention to detail.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I know when Paul is off now. I mean, come September, it'll be 2 years for us of marriage. But in that time, I've now come to know when he's off. And I know that he doesn't like for me to say to him, well, what's wrong? He would prefer me to say, well, what are you thinking? And so learning that about him, but being able to tell now when he's not quite on his game. It's like, he's not quite feeling like, he's not quite himself. And so I'll say, well, what are you thinking? What's going on? And then he'll elaborate.
Yeah, like last week, I just started crying.
Yeah, he was really sad.
Yeah, and you just helped me. You're like, oh, and I just started crying.
Well, see, those are good breakthroughs. Breakthroughs that you all are understanding how to ask the right question. The right question makes the difference. Go ahead, Dave.
I want to say this is very important. What the next door neighbor, that the lady that passed in his house, passed away from loneliness, and nobody know what's going on with her. And it's really sad. And when I say really sad, I'm saying it's sad like this. This lady haven't been like this all her life. She been around individual that seeking all emotionally from her. What I mean by this is somebody and people are getting around and just siping all the dreams, all the strength from her. Some individual eating all the time off her. And everybody eating off and nobody never bring no food to the table to fill her back up, right. And spiritually, mentally, and physically, and financially. And when you get a person like that, it's so sad because we as individuals, everybody, we're responsible for, I'm just saying about this lady death, we are responsible for this lady death. And I'm saying it like this because we are, like your wife said, we are selfish. We are off to ourselves. We cipher the life out of injury because it's a sad case when another person get involved with somebody just for material stuff, just to see what they can get out of them. And this lady, she probably was a very emotional individual. She don't mind helping folks. Like your wife said, she used to get jobs for little young kids to come and just stay busy, keep her coming. She was crying out for help. She was humbling herself down the individual. And each person that come into her life was pulling all her strength from her. So she takes the easy way out. I'd rather be off to myself. Just stay off to myself. Don't talk to a lot of people. Just be off to myself. And that's the sad part of life right there. That's the sad part of life because every individual on this planet needs people in their life. But it's when you go and beat people down, they say, well, I just hang out to myself. So we're responsible for this. We're responsible for this. The same day with my wife or your wife or vice versa. Now, if you continue to keep beating your wife down and your wife could keep beating your husband down, sooner or later, one of y'all going to break down emotionally. And that's dangerous. I broke down because you don't know what the outcome going to be. You don't know what the outcome going to be. So it's our power that the Almighty Father is still in, especially a man. We are powerful. We need to keep up. We need to keep stuff rolling. We got the power. The Bible says the man's got the power. We have to know how to use it in order refract it in God order way. We have to know how to use it. But this one happened because me and my wife were talking about this other day about Adam and Eve. We're responsible for this problem. We're responsible. Men, we are. And we need to step up to the plate and handle our business. in the way that the Almighty Father wants us to handle our business. If you don't understand what your strength is or what you're supposed to do, you get your Bible and read your Bible and talk to the Almighty Father and tell him to give you the guidance. Please guide me. Show me how to do this. Show me how to do it. And say your prayers to the Almighty Father is sincere. To anybody can say a prayer to the Almighty Father and say this, yeah, that don't mean nothing. But you have to really break down because, like I say, we are powerful. We are leaders. But it's a sad case when we misuse that power. It's a sad case we don't recognize we got this authority. It's sad.
Or misuse it.
There you go.
Yeah, misuse it. And then if we misuse the power, are we not truly hearing the gift of God then? Because I don't think we can misuse something if we truly hear it.
That's not true, because people misuse it and they are obedient.
Really?
I mean, because you got to think about Adam and Eve. He was clear on what God told him to do. He was very clear. He just laid back and said, well, I'm going to do it because I don't want her to ask me again. You know what I'm saying? And that's a lot of times we just choose not to have any kind of strife or take any kind of authority or step up. And it's not the fact that we are unclear on what God says. We just choose to be disobedient. And the word says you have a choice, obedience or sacrifice. So every time you hear and choose to do it your way, there is a sacrifice that will be made. And I mean, most of the time, unfortunately, we choose the sacrifice because we like, oh, it won't be that bad. God not going to kill us. God not going to hurt us. He going to be so merciful and graceful for us.
Until he takes everything you got.
Yeah, the thing about this, men go out and do unpleasant stuff in life. You might not get the side effects from it. God may just let you go, but your wife or your kids gonna suffer it. So that's because you know better. You know better. Now, whatever you do outside your house, it affects your house. You can get upset and say, why this is going on in my house? Well, you just sit on down in the rocking chair and get your cigar, a glass of tea, and cross your leg and think about why is this happening in my relationship? Why is this happening in my house? And then Almighty Father gonna point back to you. Think about it. Think about what you did. Men can't get away with nothing. Men can't get nothing. We may try, but it's not happening. Because, like I said, if you don't get chastised, your wife and your kid gonna get chastised. Or your brother and sister going to chastise, because men's is put up to a higher stance in the Almighty Father's eyes. And it's a crime and shame we don't recognize that.
Yeah.
What do you think? Have you gotten any questions at all throughout the week about the conversations we've had so far? Any of you?
No, I haven't got any questions. I mean, I just see comments sometime and say, oh, well, I missed it, but I haven't had anybody that has actually went back and listened to it and then come back necessarily with comments. I do want to put a little preface around what we're talking about,
sure.
So that it's in a
context.
Yeah, in a context, there you go, that what we're talking about. When we're talking about long distance, there are some people who are physically a long way from each other. There are some people who need to get back mentally to each other too, because they're experiencing that mental long distance relationship. They become strangers in a household. So there's different types of long distance. I'm not just talking about the on the road trucker, but I'm talking about the distance that we've created in relationships and bringing it back to how you said the lady died alone, that distance that we create. And sometimes we have many people around us, and that lady has been dying for years, and we don't see the death in another person. So we really have to watch out, because a lot of times people are dying right before our eyes because we don't see the signs, or we are too selfish to see the signs. Yeah. So I mean, if we relate it to the Adam and the Eve story, we saw Eve bite the apple. We know that she is spiritually dying. She's physically, you know what I'm saying? It's that we saw somebody do something that we know is going to have a traumatic effect on them if somebody doesn't step in and try to help them. Nobody understood, what impact the divorce had on her. Nobody understood what impact, just staying in that home and maybe not having other choices to make, having that communication with her. Everybody just sat and watched. And I don't know if while she was hiring these teenagers, did an adult come over and try to have a conversation with her, just things. Why is this estrangement? What is going on? Just somebody who was just being a church to her. Let us find out what is going on so we can help her get back to a place. And I say her, but it's us individually, as far as the people in our household. Do we see them dying? Do we see our own relationships dying? Do we see what's happening with our kids, with our physical neighbors, the neighbors that we encounter every day? We just really don't understand the things that people are going through, but we have a very judgmental heart to say, we all have a judgmental heart. We say, well, why that person come out the house dressed like that? Why that person acting like that? Why that person talking like that? But,
and I'm sorry.
That's okay. Go ahead.
No, I want to expound on that, because she was a very difficult person. A lot of her neighbors didn't like her. She wasn't speaking. She wasn't speaking to the people's house I'm in. They don't speak. The lady on the other side of her didn't speak. They didn't speak to her. I mean, she was a very difficult person. I'd never had an issue with her because I don't live here. I just, if I saw her, I talked to her. We'd have a short conversation or whatever. But she was a very difficult person from what I understand. But it's like you said, Courtney, she was crying out for help. There's and I was telling Paul that when I learned some more information about her yesterday, I said, this woman, there was some trauma there somewhere, whether it was childhood trauma, whatever, there was some trauma there, and she never got the help she needed for the trauma. And everybody was just so quick to write her off as she's a difficult person. She's too hard to understand or get along with. Instead of just trying to figure out, why is she like this? What happened in her life? And it's like you said, we're so ready to put a label on people. Oh, well, she's a bitch, or, he's a liar. He's a, he's unfaithful, or, whatever, we want to label somebody, but okay, you're giving this person this label, but maybe there's a reason, not giving them an excuse, because there's never an excuse for bad behavior, but what happened? What was the trauma that may have caused this? Because so many of us walk around traumatized.
And why are we cutting off traumatized people?
Right.
Because that's the thing. We cut people off, and that's why I said that lady was dying, and then we cut her off from the resources that she needed and the help, because ultimately it is our job as neighbors, as community. I mean, that is one of the commandments that's written in the word, love your neighbors as you love yourself. But the thing is, we don't even have that same type of tolerance and patience with ourselves. As soon as we do something, we label ourselves. And I mean, in the midst of our own families, the first thing they say, if you go off, they say, oh, she crazy. We can't deal with her. Don't invite her to stuff no more. We ain't gonna have her around because we ain't gonna deal with that. We cut people off. So, if we cut family off, we'll cut strangers off. And then that cutting off just becomes a mentality that we become comfortable with, because we say, I just don't want to deal with that, instead of trying to figure out, really, is it something you have to deal with, or do you just need to find a resource for this person?
And add that to this is back to remember. We as citizens, we're responsible for this.
I want to cut this dog off right now.
We're responsible for this lady action. Whatever happened in our life, we're responsible. Because I got a topic that I post all the time. A few little words. Always be kind and always be humble. Those are some powerful words. Always be kind and always be humble. And the thing that will bring people to a real tight point in society, or get off to themselves, or don't want to be bothered with nobody, and they don't find out to it somebody down the road, we spoils them. What when I mean we spoil each other, spoil another individual, we put our arms around them and say everything's gonna be all right. That's number one problem right there. Everything's gonna be all right. No, everything's not gonna be all right. So why are you gonna put your arms around the individual and tell them everything's gonna be all right? You have to be real talk. Put it down. Let them know what's going on. Don't put them on the show and say, then don't, because you got a person that really believe that they're not going to challenge life no more. They just going to go on and say, yeah, everything nature going to be all right. It's not. It's not like you're raising your kids. You don't tell your kids everything gonna be all right. You don't do that because you're setting them up for disaster to happen something in the future. You be upfront with them, put stuff. And right now, when you come out, it may not sound right. It may sound destructive. It may sound embarrassing. But you're ready for them to hurt right now and wait 20 years down the road and all that, and then it can't, and then they get hurt now. We have to do that because we see it in everyday life. That's why so many youth, especially black young men, that got so much trauma in their life because somebody down the line been putting their arms around them and sitting and talking to them and say everything gonna be all right. You got this. We got this. No, it's not.
Get the help that you need and the resources around.
Yeah, somebody. She had no confidence in nobody to tell them what's really going on because people come talking to her and say you're gonna be all right. You strong, baby. You gonna be all right.
I remember doing a show, and I'll never forget it, where this couple, they were both nurses, and they lost their job, and they committed family suicide. 3 kids, husband and wife, it was a radio show, and I said, here's my sad issue. It's not the suicide. That's a whole other issue. It's not but you had a conversation with the one you love and say, this is the best idea we can come up with. Let's kill the kids. I'll kill you and I'll shoot myself. What do you think of that? I think that's a great idea. I mean, there's no family, no friends, nobody to say we're hurting.
Plus, if they're nurses, you can get a job the next day. I just think when we feel like there's no one we can turn to, and I'll never forget this. I was talking to my daughter once, and this is before I got married, and I was driving home from this meeting, and it was a 4.5-hour drive between the place I was leaving and going to, and I'll never forget it. And I said, if I get into an accident now, no one would know. I said that to myself. I thought that. I was like, no, I wouldn't think anyone would have figured out I was dead for maybe 4 days. And I was like, that's sad to me. And I called my daughter and she's like, hey, Dad. And I said, I was just driving. I had on the earpiece. I said, if I got into an accident, when would you think something was missing? She goes, because we don't talk every day, right? And she's like, I don't know. She goes, I don't know, about 4 days. And I said, I was thinking the same thing. No one would really think anything was wrong for about 4 days. And that made my stomach sick. Well, that's not your story anymore. So.
No, but there is a story like that for people around the country and around the world. Yeah. Who checks up on each other?
Yeah, I'm so consistent and I'm such a creature of habit that for me, it wouldn't be very long at all. I mean, first, so regimented in just getting to work. And I know that if I didn't show up at work and I mean, I'm on time early. I'm just such a regimented person that they call me, I didn't answer. They would know. They would know immediately. And,
right.
and it's, I mean, like for example, when the police said, they said, well, nobody's heard from her since Monday. Well, yesterday was Wednesday. So it took from Monday because she works from home. But even the people at work didn't notice that she didn't log in or anything. You know what I mean? So it's like, must have been Sunday the last time somebody must have actually seen her or talked to her, because my patient's mom said that she saw her speaking to a gardener on Sunday. So that was the last time she must have been, seen or heard from. So that means somewhere Sunday night, early in the hours of Monday, she succumbed. So it took 3 days for someone to finally say, and I believe if the woman her personal assistant who was supposed to come into work yesterday, I believe if she would not have come to work,
no one would have known.
She may still be there.
So you're saying that she didn't show up to work for 3 days?
No. She works from home, but
No, I mean, but physically log in to work.
Right.
I mean, her presence was her presence was even acknowledged that she didn't show up to work.
Yeah. I mean,
we have to be better as a community than that. That is, I mean, our relationships are very disconnected. And I mean, I don't know what type of work she has. I mean, where it might not be those types of checks and balances in place. But I mean, that is very strange. But I mean, it might be at the end of the week, one of those reports to send in for what you did for the week and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
We should not be in such an isolated world that we talk to nobody. But I mean, it is good to have a spouse that that knows when you're missing or not. But like you say, everybody doesn't talk to their child every day or somebody every day, because there's a lot of single people in this world. So like you say, who is checking up on you? And that's a question that people that listen in, whether it's in a live or replay, they really need to think that out. Have you isolated yourself, especially during, the COVID season? Have you isolated yourself so much that you've become a recluse now? What you got to say to that, baby?
Isolate yourself, there's a reason why the people isolate themselves. It's a reason why people isolate themselves. And like saying that this lady says she was a very difficult lady, and there's a reason why she's difficult, because the society will beat you down. It'll beat you down. And nobody there to help you out, nobody to keep you encouraged. You'll get to that stage in life. So as individuals, we need to carry the blame too. We need to get back, like the Bible says, get back childlike faith. We need to get back holding hands. Holding hands. When I mean holding hands, I'm not talking about necessarily physically. I'm talking about spiritually. Holding hands. Being accountable for each individual, they're like you in the military, you no
man left behind.
Yeah, that's right. No man left behind. You have to, whether you like them or not, dead or alive, you got to make sure you bring that individual back. So we need to get back to holding hands, mentally, spiritually. And if we get back to that, we'll be all right. We had a high speed all the time. We had a high speed. We going 2,000 miles an hour. As I tell my wife, we going 2,000 miles an hour. We ain't got a chance to see that sign say 15 miles an hour, and we get a doggone ticket. It's speeding. Then you want to get mad at the police officer. We need to slow our activities down, because whatever we doing, it's still gonna be there tomorrow. When you're in a rush, you got a heart attack, stuff like that. You're not gonna make it. We have to carry the blame for this. We have to carry the blame for this. Like my wife or you and your husband. Your husband gets sick or vice versa. You're to blame for that, because your husband was putting all into you, and you vice versa, and doggone it, and you not recognizing your husband, how nice your husband is to you, or your husband not nice, recognize how nice the wife is. Then she or he gonna lose their adrenaline that wants to live. First thing gonna come out, they're gonna start gaining a whole bunch of weight. They're gonna start getting sick a lot. And then you say, what's wrong, baby? What's wrong, baby? No, you're responsible, because this lady is trying to do her best. Your wife try to do her best to make you happy, mentally, physically, spiritually, and financially. Vice versa with the husband. You're responsible for your husband getting real sick. Your husband is responsible for the wife getting real sick. You don't want to say that, or you say that was God, Heavenly Father made it that way. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. You beat your wife down, or your wife beat the husband down, because it takes two strong people to pull together that makes the world go round. Yeah. You have to recognize that. Every time we beat somebody down, we taking 5 or 10 years from their life, whether we recognize that or not.
Wow. And he's speaking because he know I make him take risks.
And yes, and she's 100% right. She's 100% right, because I get carried like I would come on the show tonight, and she said, "Baby, she told me about 4 o'clock day. We got the show at 7:30, and here I'm still out there in the garage looking at it 7:12. Gotta get." But we have to. But back to what we started talking about. Don't let nothing come between you and your husband downtime. Yeah, that's very important.
Let's not let distance be an excuse. No, that's whether it's time distance, mental differences, spiritual distance, real distance. Let not distance be an excuse. Because right now, even though y'all not in the same house, y'all can Zoom dinner, eat together.
Yes, just make it work.
Because
Make
like
it work.
even when my husband was on the road, when he would slow down and stop on the truck, he would call me. He's like, I'm going in to warm up this food that you put in here. He'd even call me and say, okay, what you want me to eat tonight? How do you want me to warm it up? And we'll sit and eat dinner and talk on the phone and watch a movie together and talk about it. So we even did that. So, I mean, it was a habit that we set up before we even was physically together. It was a mental desire that we had that our meals were going to be together and discuss that down. So you got to have that ability to do that down with each other. So I'm saying, don't allow whatever we consider to be distance to be the excuse, because we build distance. We build these walls and these barriers between each other.
It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard.
And the thing on that, even when we were talking about the little things, I can remember when my husband was on the road and I had shoulder surgery. So there were things that I could no longer do at home, but he made sure he had taken care of those things before I left, just like loosening up bottles of water for me, because I couldn't hold a bottle and twist the top at the same time because I didn't have the power in my hand. So it was like he had taken care of all of those little things to make sure that it was as if he was still there for me to get those things done. So it was like, okay, I know you don't have full capability. I'm going to be that second arm for you. So he had prepared all those things for me so I could still move while he was gone. So it's just making sure you put in place that preparation.
That's and you have to, like I can't emphasize on it. You have to make it work. You have to make it work. We can't put society in front of our relationship. We can't do that. When I used to drive my truck, my wife go on Facebook Live, whatever, I used to make it my business to get in the spot where I can hear her. I stop, I pull outside the road or rest area or truck stop or pull her in a gas station parking lot and make sure I park and I'm listening to what she has to do, because we have to do that. And it's hard. I know it's hard, but you got practice to make perfect. You have to have the diligence to show each other that we're willing to make this happen. And at the end of the time, you'll be happy. You see everything start coming falling off, because you can go out all day long, baby. You can go out all day long and try to get that dollar. But I'm talking about if you're not going out and trying to make that dollar with respect, watch what happened to it. Watch what happened to that dollar. Watch what happened. Watch what happened to it.
And when we talk about dollar is not just money dollar.
That's right.
You just got to think about whatever it is that's your priority, that you're putting before. And I'm going to say any relationship, not just your marriage. Right. Whatever priorities you putting before your kids, any relative, anybody that you're saying, I want to be your friend, anybody that you've invited into this circle with you, when you get to start putting all of these things before that person, you've lost your priorities. You've lost your priorities. And so that's what we just have to be, that we are people who are consistent and intentional about the relationships that we have built with people. So it's saying, take time and make a meal with that person. I mean, that's in the word. Jesus said, come eat with me. Come take a time and eat with me. And we missed what the eating really means. Yes. That eating really is important. When they talk about break bread with each other, the people that you invite to your table, the people that are in that space, that is very crucial. I don't have many people at my table to eat. I just don't invite everybody in my house. Now I might meet with you at a restaurant and break some bread with you.
That's
but
different.
For you to actually eat my food, sit at my table, eat off my dishes and things, that is a very limited people that I actually have in my house and say, because first of all, that means I trust your spirit will align and we can agree. And so that's the thing. When you're saying that I can align and agree with you in this space, that means we're willing to work out whatever it is so we can get to that place.
And I'm going to say something y'all going to think is strange. I'm gonna say it.
Never.
In my mobile mechanic business, I actually have Almighty Father always put me in the present to speak to the people about Him that speaks His language, and I know I need to go out and make a dollar, but I don't put that first. And if anybody on the line they know Mike Mobile Mechanic, I'm telling the truth. I'll talk for 2 or 3 hours before I'm gonna start working on your car. I will talk to you 2 or 3 cars after I get through working on the car, because what I'm doing, I'm spreading the Almighty Father love. I'm building up a relationship with the people that I'm dealing with, because you got to realize this: every individual on this planet needs some word of encouragement. Everybody. I just don't go work on nobody's car and say, well, this is how much I'm charging. Time I get through, I'm gone. To me, that's poor relationship. That's in business just for the money. No, I'm different. I'm different. When I come to your house, you call me to come to your house to work on your car. We're gonna have a conversation. I'm gonna work on your car, but we still gonna have a conversation, because the most important part that I'm gonna get out of it is me. You got a good understanding. I might say something that make you feel better. You may say something that make me feel better, and you leave, and I leave with a shining flashlight. That was a good conversation. That's what I want to. That's what I want to, when I go serve my mechanic business, is talking to folks, educating folks like folks be educating me, make that individual feeling good, like individual make me feeling good, because that, to me, having an understanding with people that I'm encountering is more important than money in a day.
I agree. The way we build relationship is to have a relationship. And the only way to have a relationship is to... We can beat it with the word, but you got to be intentional about your love for people. Right? And once you open that love for people, that... I like what you say, Courtney. Like... You just don't open your heart up to everyone, but there's only so many people that you're going to vibe with, and that rhythm will connect, and it'll be there. You don't have to force it. You don't have to deny it. You don't have to repel it, because it's either going to be there or it's not. But as long as you open up your heart, you're allowing it to be, and I think that's okay.
Yeah, it's funny you saying that. We make a joke about putting a gate up to tell people enter at their own risk. And I tell my husband all the time, I said, no, I prayed over it. I said, they're going to know if they were not invited by the Holy Spirit, they are going to know, do not come any further than this. I said, because they will not get the reception that they're expecting when they come on our property.
She said that for real too.
I did. I said, so I said, a gate is not needed. I said, it's that discernment that people will have to say, this might not be the place that we want to just run on up into. It's a place that you'll know, okay, I'm welcomed here. I'm going to be loved here. I'll be nurtured here. I'll be taken care of here, but this is going to be a drama-free zone.
Before we take off, I want to say, those of you people who are listening, watching, or whatever, or liking, please go out and check on yourself and go check on others. Yeah. Be intentional about caring for people in human life, because lives are being taken, lives are being lost, and lives are being missed because of what we are not doing.
What we're not doing, exactly.
Yeah, we got a lot of people who are alive, but they are not participating in the living activities. They're already dead in so many different ways. So we sit and question people's behaviors, and it's because the death that has already crept into their lives.
The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
I was thinking that.
I heard that a long time, but you're correct.
They talking, The Walking Dead, the shows, the zombies. Yeah, I mean, but it does.
But that's what it is.
Yeah, but it reflects a society of people that have already ostracized themselves from a specific way of living, because they feel like they can no longer function in a full optimized world.
You want to pray us out, Miss Courtney, please?
Sure. Father God, as always, we come to you with thanksgiving. God, we're thankful of this opportunity for sharing about your word, Father, sharing about your relationships, sharing about the obedience that we're going to have so we can have less sacrifices in our lives. God, show us. God, allow us to move the dead out of ourselves, God, the things that are causing death in our relationships, the death of how we use our tongues, the death of how we label people, our perception of death on others, God, that we are causing in our own relationships, Father. Allow us to speak life. Allow us to be the thing that stirs up. God, allow us to be the church that people see. God, allow us to do the work in us so that people can see you. God, allow us to not be the thing that is a distractor that is taking away lives. God, allow us to do the things that you have called us to do. But God, allow us to see the ministry that you have given to us first is our marriage, God. Our marriage of ministry, ministry is the thing that you have given us to nurture and take care of first. God, allow us to do what it is that you tell us to do. Take care of home first and make sure that it is functioning in its right place before we ever step out to give life to anybody else. God, make sure that our garden is growing and nurtured as the way that you have called it to be, so that we are producing the fruit of the Spirit that you have called upon us. And God, then step out and give nourishment and fruit to others. God, give us that strength and give us that ability, give us that direction. God, definitely give us the provision and the bless us so we can be a blessing to other people in our speech, in our walks, in our lives, God. But allow us to be the vessel that you have created us to be. If you need to break us and drop us and change us because that we have not done what it is that you have needed us to do, and you need to reform us, God, go in our hearts and do that. But God, we bless you. We're thankful because we know that you are able to change us in the way that you need to make us be the vessel that you have called us to be. In the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Can I give y'all a closing thought?
Yes, sir.
It's very important each and every day and each and every night that husband and wife, girlfriend and boyfriend, when they get ready to leave the house, hug your girlfriend, or hug your wife, or hug your husband, or hug your kids. When you wake up in the morning before you leave the house, and it's very important when you come back, you do the same thing. That let you know you appreciate them very much, because a lot of people didn't wake up this morning. A lot of people didn't come back home. So you have to show that gratefulness that you really love your mate and your kids. That's very important. Very important.
I agree.
Thank you. Next Thursday, everyone, at 7:30 p.m., join us here on Black Love Conversation, Relationship, and Conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.